you want me to hold that?
That's okay. Alright, so we're on there, good. I like the contrast. Next thing I do is I get the charcoal really sharp. So I want this to be like a knitting needle. I don't want to have a vague broad line when I make my mark. So this is way too broad right here, you know, very stumpy. Good for other things.
You chopping that with the sandpaper block or,
yep,
or razor?
with the sandpaper block. You can just edit this video as you
Right.
as you see fit. I just get it razor sharp. So it's good to have right here. Okay, so next thing I do, if I was more of an exacting person, I'd run over and get a T-square, but I'm not. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the nose perfectly straight, even though I probably like it at a little bit of a tilt, but I'm going to get the nose as perfectly straight as I can, so that it's a good drawing demonstration. So then I just scratch in a vertical line.
So is the vertical line always in the center of the page, or is it usually off-center?
Only if it's in the center of your piece. It's whatever is most prominent.
Right,
That's
that's the dark line along that
center-ish.
shadow.
Yeah, but if this head was turned a little bit more that way, I'd probably throw my vertical line pretty far that way. So, all right. So coming back here, that suffices for my vertical line. The very first thing that I do is I grab that plumb line and I find the top of the piece right here. Then I come back and I find the bottommost section of the piece right there. Having found the top and the bottom, I won't be able to get it too accurate until I have more information then. I then find some points of interest in between. I probably will start right at the base of the nose. Now, this is my best guess. I definitely won't be making the right mark in the beginning. I forgot to get an eraser.
Here.
Perfect. That's my best guess. And I come back and I stand and I look at my best guess and I use my wrong mark to create my right mark. So there's no way that in this vast sea of information, I can perfectly plot the bottom of that nose. So what I do is I make it a mark, and then I measure off of that if it's a little bit above or a little bit below. Do you know what I mean? So then I move on to other prominent points of interest. So I'll find right at the brow ridge where it meets the eyebrows. Right here. And it's just my best guess. I'll find the upper lip. And as I'm measuring, I'll double back here. So maybe this could come up a little bit higher after all. And now I'll search for that upper lip. So again, I'm just looking at the latitude of what's going on here, and I always call it like ladder rungs. So just the rungs of the ladder. I'm not looking at the width of anything. Just the vertical axis with the latitude of where things stand. So that's my best guess at the upper lip. And then
If you were working from a smaller cast and wanted to make a larger drawing,
yep.
how would you expand it?
By putting the paper, the easel far beyond the object.
Oh.
Yep. So you can expand things easily that way. Isn't that pretty cool?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I'm going to find a few more points of interest. Again, I use the word best guess so much because I can't get too exact when it's just dots on a page. Sometimes students will come and spend like 45 minutes on that, and it's not worth anything because it's just dots. You have nothing to work with. And Compared to working with clay, if you were to sculpt a huge clay bust and you put on little, tiny marble-sized pieces of clay on a stick and trying to get a full head, you wouldn't have enough to work with. You want to put information down and just get information, and then you start working it, molding it. So, okay, measuring all those points out. Now I'll find some spots in the page. And with that, I'm pretty much done with all my plotting. Okay, so now I'm going to use this vertical axis right here to try to find the leftmost point and the rightmost point. To find the leftmost point, I take my thumb and I place it on the vertical axis, and then I take my right thumb and I place it on the external contour. So from this angle, you can see I'll take from a distance my left thumb, place it on the vertical axis, my right thumb, and I'll put it right here on the outside. And so as I look at that distance right there,
In here?
from a distance back here,
Well, no.
then what I do is I take this and I rotate at my hips, and I just go like that. And I try to find the rightmost point over here. So I chose like this instead of this and this. I chose like right about there. So then, having measured that out, I check it, and now I flip it. Now I'm taking my right thumb, and I place it on the nose right here. And then I place my left thumb on a point over here. I'm not going to choose that, I'm going to choose this right here. And I do that from a distance. So from back here, I measure from that nose over to the left-hand side. And then I just come up and I make a mark right here. That's the leftmost point. Now I kind of do just a gut instinct. I just ask myself, is that generally the width from here to here? The whole thing? And my answer is more or less, it's thereabouts. It's not perfection, but it's, as close as I can get it. Having generally put in those widths, now I'm going to move to really the truly rightmost point and truly the leftmost point, which are up here a little bit more. So again, measuring from the vertical axis, I put my left thumb on the vertical axis, my right thumb on the right contour, exterior contour, and then I just slide over, and it kind of comes right here, just like that. Now I'm going to flip it. I put my right thumb on the vertical axis, my left thumb on the leftmost point of the contour, and then I make a mark. Just like that. So now what I've done in doing this is I plotted the overall width of the piece. It's remarkable how many artists, even far into their careers, have paintings that run right off the canvas. Or they try to design it and it gets out of control. This isn't just used for site size, it's actually used for plotting comparative things as well. So you just give yourself your external parameters and you don't go any further. So coming back here, I have those points mapped out. I don't really want to put in too many more points. This is a strong diagonal, very hard to measure out. This is a lot of information that's pretty close to here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm now going to do what I call laying in angular terms, and I call it a stop sign. If you're trying to get a circle over here, it's very difficult to duplicate a circle to circle by drawing in an arc. But if you find the top of something, the bottom, the leftmost point, the rightmost point, and you keep on just putting in multiple lines, just like this, only by working on lines, what you'll see is that you can approximate a sphere all with straight angular marks, just like that. Now that isn't to say that aesthetically all artists should have angular work, but it is a very useful tool for seeing something such as the round of the head right here. I don't want to try to draw a round head. I want to see it top, bottom, angle, angle, angle. And it's interesting that the Greeks, going back all the way to ancient Greece, that they theorized that a circle is an infinite number of lines. And so that's what we're doing right now, is we're just seeing an infinite number of lines. So coming back here, I want to see the broadest possible line. So the broadest possible line are going to be kind of intuitively just scratched in a suggestive way. And I'm keeping my distance from the piece. I really don't want to spend too much time up the piece. And I definitely don't look at it while I'm up close, because this is one perspective, standing close is another perspective. So I stay far away and I look far away. So all this busyness, I reduced it to a line. Because I want to get the overall, like, in essence, you can look at this and you can say it's a vertical line, but I definitely would choose to not see that. I see it as having this curve to it. It comes like that. So I don't want to put in a vertical line for the external contour, but I want to already be seeing that swirl down. See what I mean? Okay, that is my early attempt, my best guess of the external contour. I'm not going to be able to really get too much refined information at this point. Some artists can, but personally I need to, I get down to the smaller angles, but I'm not going to fuss about that for all eternity. I'm looking at the broadest masses, and kind of switching from the left brain. The left brain measures piecemeal information. I'm kind of switching over to the right brain, which is a little bit more abstract and sees the bigger picture. Now, the whole time that I'm working, the most important things that I'm doing is closing my eye and squinting. And so I have everything down to a real blur. It couldn't be more blurred, because I don't want to see specifics too much. I just want to see broad transitions. Or broad planes, I'm sorry. so that's my best guess at the external contour. I'm not going to do really any more refining. Now it's time to jump inside and to look at the interior shadow shape. So to see the interior shadow shape, close one eye and really, really squint. And get it down to a real blur. And polarize the lights and the darks. And just try to see pure light and pure dark and nothing else. Again, working in very, very broad angular terms. This is a much lighter passage. And if you close an eye and squint, the shadow shape still is there. You still can sum it up into a very general shadow shape. Basing everything now off of here. So this is my Van Dyke Z right here. And that Z goes 1, 2, 3. It is the basis from which I'm going to measure everything in this painting, everything in this drawing. So as you look at this, that is something that if there's going to be variance here from this point forward, it's going to be from here to here. That will go in and out. But I'm not going to move this to match the outside of the head. I'm just not going to. The outside of the head can shift this much back and forth, and it doesn't matter to me. It can go up and down, but this is going to stay put right here. I might refine it. You can run past, Ben. Now the lips right there, in one sense you could be like, oh, there's a lot of information. Close your eye and squint so much that almost your eye is completely shut. The lip actually really simplifies and it's not that hard anymore. again, really squinting, trying to not see too much information, trying to see, as best I can, I'm trying to see less information rather than more. I have hours and hours to get more information. But if I get too specific at this point, it's that whole saying. Right now I'm really keeping in mind the principle that goes behind that saying. Can you see the forest from the trees? So when you start out painting, it's about trying to see the whole. If you walk out into a field, try to appreciate the whole field in one glance. It's really what we do when we first walk anywhere. So we see a whole line of trees. And then as time goes by, we go from seeing a whole, just entire, almost a wall of trees, then we see individual trees. After we see individual trees, we see tree branches. And after we see tree branches, we look at tree leaves. And after we're looking at the leaves, we'll notice that there's a bird sitting like right there on those branches next to those leaves. But that's that whole idea of the forest down to the trees. Right now, I'm just working on the forest, trying to see the whole line of trees, rather than trying to see. It'd be such a mistake right now to try to see a tiny little bird sitting on the branches, so to speak, over here. Like, who cares? I need to see the whole entire broadest picture. That's why we really, really, really squint when we start out painting. I have a friend who's a portrait painter in London, and he was painting my portrait. I was sitting for him, and he starts at the painting, and he goes like this, and he goes, "Hey, Dad," and he's like staring at me. I'm like, "You look like you're trying to seduce me." He was like really weird, creepy, like stands, and he's like, "McEvoy," he's like, "I'm just blurring you down so I can see your shapes." And it's just so funny. It's just like this thing, and that's how he paints. He always paints like that. When I paint, I go like that, and people look at me, and I look really weird. I've had a lot of portrait sitters laugh at me, but I need to go like this in order to blur everything down to nothing. I just want to see the forest. Okay, so there's a whole path to travel right here. I don't want to get caught up in the specifics. Just the shadow shape, the boundary between light and dark. Nothing more. So one of the things you might notice that I'm ignoring altogether is I'm really ignoring the halftones. Look at all the delicate information through here. All these gentle halftones, completely ignoring them. Choosing to not see them, because to look at the halftones right now would be a distraction from the high contrast shadow shapes. Even over here, there's all this gentle halftones. Those lines squint. So nothing but pure light and pure dark. Now moving ever so slightly into some of the smaller shadow shapes. That isn't a halftone, it's a pretty high contrast area, but it's a small shape. And so it's time to start putting in small shapes, because I want to see how this dialogues with the other shapes around it. Okay, so I actually feel really good with this lay-in. I definitely do see some like problems, some shapes that need to be sorted out, but I don't feel that there's any grievous errors. Sometimes by this stage in the drawing, I see problems that are so terrible that I'm gonna have real difficulty rectifying them. But I don't really feel that at all right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump back to the external contour. And remember that stop sign I talked about, and how a circle is an infinite number of lines? I'm gonna now start to get more lines coming through here to try to see how this turns up there. Okay, so now I feel so much better with the way that that turns. And you see how this is speaking? They're speaking to each other. And the space relative from here to here, I had to shimmy things in and out. And if you ever look at John Singer Sargent's painting of Henry James, if you look at the external contour of the upper head, the outside of the contour of the head goes like this, back and forth. And you can tell he painted and repainted up here because he couldn't find the exact height of the head. These things will vary. I'll probably be moving this quite a bit, back and forth. But this, again, the Van Dyke Z, 1, 2, 3, that is the anchor of this face. That's not the anchor. That can vary all it wants to, because nobody's gonna look. If you did a painting of me, and as you're painting me, my painting like looked like that, you'd be like, Van Dyke Z is off. It looks like Kevin's in perpetual shock because it's too stretched out here. If you see me like this, and what if you got my hair a little bit higher like that? Well, you'd say, well, that looks like Kevin when he was 30 rather than 37. So, so you'll see like slight changes, even like the jaw line, stuff like that. I'm not saying they don't have to be, you know, accurate, but this can give ever so slightly and not detract from the psychology of it's right here. So coming back and looking at it, I asked myself some common sense questions. I'd say, is it generally the right size? At this point in the day, I just want to ask myself basic things like, is anything really off that's going to really harm the progress on this next week? And the answer is, as I look at it, I don't think so. It feels correct-ish, but my whole life is ish. I can't figure anything out with exactitude early on. At the very end of the painting, or I'm sorry, the drawing, I will look at it and I will say, okay, I want this really accurate, you know? For a plastic cast drawing, it's different than fine art. We do want exactitude, we do want verisimilitude. So I will look at this and I will want precision. At this point right now, all I really need is it right-ish? Is it feeling, is it generally gesture of the thing? The swoosh of the head right here, the turn of this right here, does that feel correct? And yeah, more or less. There's a whole lot more work I could do in the beard, but I think we're very much at that point of squeezing as much out of the rig as worthwhile. So, do you have any questions? Any questions?
I think that's all wrong.